So we're going to continue working on our fish tank model here. Again, this is optional, so you might not want to invest as much time as I'm putting into this. I'm going to just do a little bit of fiddling around here on the model to see if we can get lines a little bit nicer. And to do that, I can go and I can click on some of these edges. If I do Alt and select them, do Shift and Alt, I can get rid of some of those extra lines that are in between things, as it's affecting a little bit of the geometry here. And not that one. Before I remove any lines, I probably want to hit Z so I can see through where all those lines are going and see if I actually want to remove those. I don't think that looks too bad. Let's hit X. I'm going to say dissolve edges, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Z again, and I'm going to tab out. Take a look. It doesn't look too bad. It almost looks like I have a little hole or indent here. And so I'm going to hit Alt and select that edge, and I'm going to do X and dissolve edges. And I'm thinking that looks well enough. Okay, I want to make sure it's not crossing over too much. I'm still getting where I have like the edges coming out and through. That's where it's actually bridging across. I'm not sure if I can fix that really well, but we'll see. So I can hit Control R and put in another loop cut. And I don't see it adjusting when I put that in. So I'm going to go to face select mode. Try to get just that face. Easier said than done. And might have to go into wireframe mode. So this is the edge going around, and it's just kind of drawing a line from there to there, which is part of the problem for this. So what I'm going to try to do is get go to edge mode. And I'm going to try and get this loop here going around. And I'm going to increase the mean crease and see if that affects it at all. Which it didn't there, or didn't seem to. I'm going to do that over here as well. And we'll increase the mean crease there. So that can take a little while to kind of figure out, and I might truncate this back a little bit if I'm working on it for quite a bit more, especially as I got those. That must be the inside of the tank here. Let's hit 5 for perspective. Let's see if I just increase that mean crease. Does it? Nope, still problems. Okay, so I'm going to do Z. I'm going to do figure out how to solve that one. That's kind of an interesting problem. So what I might do is go to where I have my add tools, and I might try to do just click on subdivide to see if that breaks it up more. Nope. Dissolve faces, and I don't get a result there either, which would just make all those inside parts one face. So I'm going to turn off my subdivision surface so I can see that section better, which is right here. Okay. And what I'm going to do is do some knife cuts to see if I can get some better geometry going for this. Although I don't have this loop selected, let's try that one more time. So I'm going to do Alt. Got a good section of it going around there as well. Work on getting that. Let's try to increase its mean crease first. I can turn my subdivision back on, and I still have it going out. So I'm going to mess around and see what I can do, and then I'll come back here. I might need to draw some knife cuts to pull that surface back a little bit. So I switched to material view, which actually let me see the inside of this much clearer. And what I did was these corners were pretty good already over here, and you can see their geometry there. So I took this corner and I divided it up a few times, and actually I think that corner was okay. This one did the same, divided it up a few times. And so when I turn on my subdivision surface, that actually looks pretty good there as far as those lines actually kind of cutting well. I could over here, for instance, where I have that little section there, if I turn off my subdivision surface, tab into it, I can get kind of a closer look as to what's going on here. I think some of those extra edges I had taken out of the geometry, which is why we have a section there with without a loop cut. I can put one back in if I want, and work with it from there. Same with this one. This was another one that I had edited and stuff. But you might have to adjust the geometry, which is not a bad thing for practicing, getting used to working with materials and things like that. The rest of that doesn't look too bad. I'm going to switch to face select. I'm going to go ahead and select around this edge here. I'm going to do S to widen it out just a little bit. Maybe even bring it a little lower. Take a look and see if it's kind of along the lines of what you want or not. And I think that actually looks fairly good. I have it flat. I made it flat in this case because it was just easier. I could have made it tilted like I did before by taking the whole object before I did my cuts in the bottom of this tank and rotating it just slightly off on the Y axis. So if I had gone down to rotate Y and said done 25 like so, and then done my cuts on the bottom, and then gone back to this section and put it back to 0 to finish modeling the top, and then back to wherever I had made my cuts. So at 25 was what I had just done there. That would have worked too as well. Otherwise, this is pretty straightforward. It's standard. I'm going to go ahead and change my material now. So I'm going to do Shift Z so I can see the way things look at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and add my material to this, which we're going to use glass. And I had actually already done this just a moment ago, but I'm going to tab in to the shape. I'm going to do A to select all, and I'm going to go down to where it says shading, make sure smooth is on, which it is. And I'm also going to make sure everything's recalculated. And then I'm going to go down to where it says UV unwrap. I'm going to click on this and go down to Smart UV Project. Even though I'm not doing UV coordinates at the moment, that can be kind of useful as you work with other textures and surfaces. So for the remainder of this, what I want to do is I want to cut this water surface that I have down so that it's hidden by the fish tank. And one of the things that I need to do is in my water texture, I'm going to make sure I don't have an object at the moment. I duplicate the fish tank so that I have a second copy of it, and which I was talking about earlier. When I use this fish tank, I'm going to go ahead and hit slash on there so I can see just that side of it. All of these faces, as I go around, I want to get as many as I can. You'll notice that some of these I didn't quite get. They were kind of hard to get with the geometry. But since everything around those is selected, I don't have to worry about them too much because the vertices are all going to move, and so it'll move those as well. We'll see any terrible effects to later as well. And again, I want to make sure I'm on my fish tank mask. That's that duplicated object. I'm going to go ahead and tab back in just for a moment and hit slash so I'm back in my model here. Now we're going to take my water, and that fish tank mask is the one I want to select. When I select that, if I hit Z, I will notice that it cuts a section out of that. Okay, and that's the thickness of the walls of the tank as it goes around, and it'll kind of edit the water as we go through the model as it's animated. And what I want to do is I can't just apply it and delete this area because then the waves inside will be going through the walls, they'll be doing other things. I want to keep it as a Boolean operation so it calculates it for each frame basically that it's doing this in. I'm going to go ahead and tab out that. I'm going to go to the fish tank and I'm going to tab into that, and here I can see my outside walls that I have selected. I'm going to do S and Y and pull them out wider than my water section that I have. And then I'm also going to pull them out on the x-axis, so I'm going to do S, X, and pull that out so that it again is wider than the model of the water there. I'm going to tab in, I'm going to hit Z, and here I have this terrible looking weird thing that's stretched out over my table area across the whole entire thing. And I'm actually going to take that and just hide it, and so I don't want to see it and I don't want to render it. Now when I go into my transparent modes, let's actually go and select water here. I can see my water outline, and then in the timeline as I move this I can see the water move. If I hit play, it's going to go really, really slow because I have so many things here. As you can see, it's going at 1.56 frames per second, but that gives me my water in general. I'm going to go ahead and pause this, maybe. And anyway, I'll take a look at it rendered here as soon as it starts responding again to when I hit things. There we go. And so I'm going to do Shift Z so I can see it in rendered mode. You can see the water on the surface there, and now I'm pretty much ready to continue modeling.